Welcome into the Colts Squad Show. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, and I wasted most of the afternoon watching old Washington Redskins highlights. I'll tell you why during the show today.
And I'm Zach Hicks. I'm from the Washington area, and I always waste my days watching old Washington highlights.
I'm Jake Arthur, and I hope that we don't have to care if Brett Rypien is good or not.
And I'm Alan Pinkett, former Oiler. And second trip to LA, will it be a trick or a treat?
Colts Nation, rise up. It's the Colts Squad. Everything Indianapolis Colts every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Circle City. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. It's time to squad up. The Colts Squad Show starts now.
How we do it every day is welcome to the Colts Squad Show here on the Locked On Colts Network. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. I'm your host, Derek Schultz, longtime sports talker and columnist for the IBJ right here in Indy, and I'm joined by legendary Notre Dame and Oilers running back Alan Pinkett, and you guys already know Zach Hicks and Jake Arthur, the dynamic duo from Locked On Colts, your first listen every day. So the Colts keep on keeping on, right? It wasn't as easy as some of the games previously on Sunday as they had to come from behind to knock off Arizona, but still a win is a win is a win. And Indy is the only team in the AFC right now at 5-1 as they head back to Los Angeles, this time to take on Justin Herbert and the Chargers. Tonight's show on the squad, we're going to discuss who are the threats in the AFC, and maybe LA is on that list. I could think of a couple of others too, but it's not a very long list, at least with what we've seen from the first 6 weeks of the season. The Colts signing another backup quarterback, and just kind of what this means for Anthony Richardson's terrible year. I understand that he's sort of been a non-topic on this show, which at the end of the day is probably a good thing, right? But also, you know, we're all human, and to just kind of see what he's going through this year, it's been difficult, no doubt. So we're going to talk about AR a little bit coming up later on the show. We'll play overreactions and underreactions from week 6, as we always do. We always have an overreaction. We have an underreaction. And then take our first look at Jim Harbaugh and the Bolts, who are going to be the next opponent coming up Sunday at 4:05. But guys, let's talk threats in the AFC, because I think we would all agree right now that the Colts look the part of a contender. And I think we would also all agree right now that this conference, comparatively speaking to the NFC, is, especially when you look at kind of the middle, I think the middle of the NFC is much stronger than what you see right now in the AFC. But talking about the top of it, Zach, you know, it's been a weird year because Joe Burrow's injury has basically wiped Cincinnati completely off the map, right? Lamar Jackson's injury has sort of done that to Baltimore, even though there's less finality with that injury compared to Burrow's. But the Bills haven't quite looked right. The Chiefs have been a little bit up and down, even though they really turned it on and were impressive Sunday night against the Lions. Where do you put the rest of the teams around the Colts right now in the AFC if you're putting together sort of a hierarchy now that we're heading into week 7?
Yeah, it's kind of tough because, at least for me, when it comes to ranking on how serious teams are, when it comes to playoff potential or just the ability to win in the playoffs, the big things I usually look for are how well an offense converts on third down. I think that's one of the most vital things. How strong of an offensive line an offense has, and if the team has a defense that doesn't have to be top of the league but can take the football away. Those are the things I really look for. And then the fourth one is if you have Pat Mahomes at quarterback, you're probably going to be in the playoffs and probably be in the Super Bowl. So let's start with the Kansas City Chiefs. They haven't looked right, but this is probably the best their offense has looked since the Pat Mahomes MVP seasons. And they're getting back a big weapon this week in Rashee Rice. So the one team you can never count out is the Kansas City Chiefs, because I say this is the best their offense has looked in years, and they've been to the Super Bowl every year since their offenses look this good. So the Chiefs are always going to be there. I think we can say the Buffalo Bills are going to figure something out. They still have a good offensive line. They still have a top 2 quarterback in football. They're going to figure it out. Their defense needs a lot of help right now. But they're just a battle-tested team that knows what they're doing. So even if they are kind of faltering and not looking like their typical selves, they're going to be there. You know, their odds are they're going to be the AFC Championship teams because they have been the last couple years, even if they look a little bit more vulnerable. Then after that, you kind of get the upstart teams. You get like the Colts, who, again, have the offensive line. They have, the second or third best third down offense in football. They have one of the best turnover differentials in football. They kind of check every mark I look for on a like a legit playoff caliber team. So I think the Colts are legit. But then I think another team in their division looks pretty legit right now too, and it's actually the Jacksonville Jaguars, because I think their defense is playing some really good football. Their offensive line has figured a lot of things out. Now, they did have a bit of a step back this past week against the Seahawks, but the Seahawks are another one of those top tier teams, and that's just what happens when you play other top teams. So I do like what the Jaguars are doing. I think they're pretty legit. We have a comment here that's saying the Steelers. I don't know if I can fully buy into the Steelers, because so much of their offense is the short passing game. And once they play against like a better team that just tries to take that away, I'm a little nervous about them. They'll be in the playoffs for sure, because they're the Steelers. They're in the playoffs every single year. But I don't know how much of a threat I would say they are. But I think the big ones for me really are obviously the Chiefs and Bills. Jaguars, I'm keeping my eye on for sure. Broncos are going to be tough. I know the Colts beat them earlier in the year, but Broncos with that defense and with that offensive line play, I think the Broncos are going to be a sneaky team the rest of the year. But those are the big ones for me. I would put Chargers in there too, but me and Jake are close to playing offensive line for them. I mean, again, we tried out for them last week. It didn't really work out, but my kick slides weren't very effective. But yeah, their offensive line play is at a pretty bad spot right now, so it's hard to really put much faith in them. But yeah, I think in the AFC you have to have the Bills and the Chiefs up top, and then a couple of these upstart teams with good offensive lines I think are next up.
Yeah, I think that's about right in terms of the hierarchy. Again, Cincinnati, you can kind of kiss that one goodbye. The Ravens, they're 4 games under 500. Like, even when Lamar gets back, they almost have to go undefeated the rest of the way in order to salvage that thing. So as far as like the true contenders, like teams that could get to the Super Bowl goes, I think Zach pretty much nailed those. But I look at, kind of the back half of the schedule. They have the Texans twice in the final month, and that worries me. I mean, I don't think the Texans are like a championship contending caliber team or anything, but they're still a team that's going to mix it up and makes things interesting. They and the Colts always split, or it goes the Texans' way. So those are definitely not matchups I'm discounting, even though they're 2 and 3. Those kind of give me a little bit of concern later on in the year. And then the Jaguars for sure. You got your 2 Jaguars matchups still to go. I do like the Colts playoff seed, the AFC playoff seeding in general is about to get super interesting right now, because the Colts are the number 1 seed in the AFC, facing the number 3 seed Chargers this week. And then in 2 weeks, they face the number 2 seed Steelers. So we're going to get some real definition coming up soon, I think. I mean, the Colts are a game. Well, what is that? I think a half game above the Steelers, because people are already starting to get buys. But yeah, I don't think the Steelers are like a championship contender. I wouldn't say that about the Patriots either. They're the 4th seed. But yeah, like Buffalo, I would never count the Broncos out. Honestly, the Chiefs, those are the real ones, I think.
Well, from a player perspective, the biggest threat is always your next opponent. You do not look past your next opponent. Each game is its own entity. Each game is a Super Bowl, and you put everything into that particular game. But from the analyst point of view, it's fun to speculate, and it's fun to talk about, what teams could be perceived as a threat. And I'll tell you, the sweetheart now are the New England Patriots. I mean, they have found a rhythm under their new coach, and all the old Patriots are starting to, stick their chests out a little bit, because they remember the Brady-led Patriots. That team, if you're sort of in the dog days in the NFL, you hit like a little lull. I think that's what's happening to Buffalo. You can only ride high so long, and then you're going to get a bump in the road. And what happens is, if you lose and you don't correct what you did in that loss, everything is on film. That following team is going to hit you in your weakness until you correct it. So Buffalo has some correcting to do. They'll be all right. They're still going to be there. And like you said, Zach, I expect Kansas City to be there in the end. They're just too good, and it's a long season. We're only 6 games in. Now, I think it gets serious when you get to game 10, game 11. as far as, okay, who really is a threat then. But that's also a time when you start thinking about, we've done pretty good so far. Getting into the playoffs, that's not the top of mind thought anymore. Let's play a playoff game at home.
Right.
Or how about let's win another game so we can have a bye. You know how valuable a bye week is when you get close to the playoffs? So we can, on this side of the fence, go ahead and speculate and talk about the what ifs and if the Colts can sustain this type of play, which I expect them to, as long as no one gets hurt and as long as this new quarterback that was signed never sees the light of day.
Yeah, no, for sure. And one thing I want to mention about the Patriots too is the Patriots are going to be in the playoffs this year because they are playing, I think they're on pace to play the easiest strength of schedule in like the history of the sport. Like it's never been an easier strength of schedule. If you look at pretty much the only playoff caliber team they're going to play all year is the Bills twice. They've already played the Saints. They've already played the Raiders. They are going to play the Jets and Dolphins twice each. Like they're going to play the whole top 10 of this upcoming draft. And it's going to help them make the playoffs. I do like what they have with Drake May. I think their offensive line is taking a step forward, and I think they're going to be a tough out. But in terms of like them being like a legit contending caliber team, I don't think I've seen enough from them yet. I do think their win over the Bills was impressive, but as the Bills keep sputtering, maybe it's not as impressive as we think. So we'll see how much that one holds up as we go. But Patriots are definitely interesting to watch. I just wouldn't put them on the same tier as like the Broncos as of right now, who that defense is just, they held an opposing offense to -10 net yards in a game. Like, I don't care. I know it was against Justin Fields and the Jets, but that is insane to do that to an NFL team. So I think that Broncos defense is legit. I think the Chiefs are going to be there. I'm not fully bought in on the Patriots yet.
Broncos might go back-to-back years with two different NFL defensive players of the year too. Pat Surtain last year, Nick Bonito this year.
He's so good. He's so good. It's crazy. The Colts have only allowed 5 sacks through their 6 games so far when they've played against that. They played against that team and they played against Jared versus Rams. And like to only have 5 sacks allowed through 6 games shows me just how legit the Colts are, that they're great at mitigating those sacks, keeping the ball moving forward. That's a testament of a team that's going to be a tough out in the playoffs, like we've seen with past 49ers teams, with past Sean McVay Rams teams. It's kind of what their formula has always been. And I think the Colts are following that pretty well.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how we'd be evaluating the Colts had they lost that game. Because, a lot of the naysayers have come out and be like, well, who did you beat? You lost to the 2 best teams that you played, and you went to Nashville and won. Who cares? Miami, the Raiders, who cares? Even though I think just the analytics and the fact that they've dunked so savagely on some of the bad teams that they've played have proven that the Colts are a good team. But really what intrigues me about the Patriots, guys, and just this year in general, is that, Drake May is one of the few really young quarterbacks that's playing at a very high level. Whereas you look at the rest of the quarterbacks that are playing well this year, it's all retreads or the guys like Mahomes and Stafford and the guys that we're used to being great players.
Yeah, no, Drake May is going to be there all year. He's a very good quarterback, very good young quarterback, and he's taken that big step forward. So yeah, he's certainly someone to watch. But I think also with that, I don't know, like Alan, I want to get your opinion on this, because when it comes to like playoff pedigree, as a player, you have to view your opponent obviously as good as the opponent deserves to be there. But like, it's almost a different thing when it's like, oh, it's Josh Allen who's been there, done that. Where Drake May, it's the kid's first time here. Like, let's make his first time hell. Like, what are your thoughts on that, Alan?
Well, it's definitely, the game has different speeds, and preseason is one speed, and then it ramps up in the regular season, but it really ramps up in the playoffs. So it's usually your first time in the playoffs. You are sort of in awe of the speed and how fast everything is moving and how much higher level players are playing at and what you have to do to get to that level. And sometimes you just got to take your knocks in the playoffs to understand, okay, I need to be at a different level when it comes playoff time, because these other teams that have, championship DNA, they know what level that is. They know how to answer the bell. Josh Allen knows what to do when he gets to the playoffs. Pat Mahomes, he's built for the playoffs. The regular season is just a dress rehearsal. where Drake May, he's playing his butt off now to try and get a shot at being in the playoffs. But then, you just it just makes you grow up real fast. That's why you want to have as many playoff appearances as possible, so you can get used to the speed, get used to the atmosphere, get used to all the different expectations that are around when you get into the playoffs. And you want to be in that mindset where you're there to win the playoff game, not just show up in the playoff game.
Yeah, and the Colts will have a chance, if they stay on this track, to host a playoff game for the first time. It's just hard to believe when you have to say this out loud. The 2014 season, last time that they were able to host a.
I've never covered a home playoff game. Derek, have you?
Yes.
You did get to cover one for
way back when. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Way back in the day. I mean, I remember the Chiefs comeback win in 2013. And then I think 14, the only game that they played was against Cincinnati, but it might have been Andrew Luck's best throw of his career. He had Dante Moncrief in the corner of the end zone, and it was just an insane, alien throw.
Yeah.
But yeah, them's the good old days. Now, at least we're talking about the good old days sort of returning through the first 6 weeks here for the Colts. But speaking of quarterbacks, the Colts signed a backup quarterback to replace the backup quarterback who has had everything go wrong this year. We're going to talk about both of them when we come back next on the Colts Squad Show. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Underdogs reigning supreme here lately, either covering or winning outright. We had a really shocking week of games back in Week 6. Whether you want to wager, whether you want to play it safe and stay out of it, whether you're feeling it, whether you're not, the beauty about FanDuel is that they let you customize your betting experience to however you see fit. When I'm feeling it, I just open up the app. It's easy to use. I place my wager. Bada bing, bada boom. It's done. When maybe I'm not feeling it, I don't. So don't let the underdog scare you away. Don't let the parlays scare you away. Just play whenever you feel like it with the FanDuel app. That's the beauty of it. So if you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. And right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place that first $5 bet. And we're back on the Colts Squad Show here on the Locked On Colts Network. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Derek Schultz alongside Alan Pinkett and the Locked On Colts duo of Jake Arthur and Zach Hicks. So Brett Rypien is the new Colts backup, or I guess one of the Colts backup quarterbacks. Shane Steichen saying today that Riley Leonard is going to remain the QB2 as Anthony Richardson is nursing an orbital fracture. Rypien has been around. This is his 7th NFL season. This is his 8th different NFL team. And we were kind of shooting the breeze before the show started here. And Zach had mentioned he's actually older than Daniel Jones in the same draft class in 2019. Here's a guy that was hugely productive at Boise State. He threw for over 13,000 yards. He's the nephew of Super Bowl champion, two-time Super Bowl champion, I should say, Mark Rypien from the old Washington days. And I know that harkens back to your playing days, Alan, and I guess your dad's watching days, Zach, if I'm not mistaken.
My VHS tape days when I was a little kid watching back when Washington was good, yes.
Rypien, 4 career NFL starts, but he's only played in 10 career games, and he has not thrown a pass since the 2023 season. But, Jake, you kind of pointed this out. This is the kind of guy that if Brett Rypien is in a game throwing a pass for you, then something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah, it's like with Riley Leonard, at least, you're maybe filling in for Daniel Jones briefly, or you're in cleanup time because they've already hit the showers early a couple times this season. But yeah, Brett Rypien, if he's in, it almost doesn't matter how good he is because the old Tom Moore quote, that's not safe for work here, that will not fully say. But yeah, if Brett Rypien is out there, it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? So it's good to have a QB3 out there that's got some experience. I mean, he can add some things to the room. He has worked with Daniel Jones before. Last year they were in Minnesota together. So it helps. I mean, Anthony Richardson, obviously much more physically gifted If he were to have to go into a game, that's one thing versus Riley Leonard versus Brett Rypien. But now it's, a very smart collective group in the room that has a lot of experience that they can share and lean on. And it's, if Riley Leonard is going to remain the QB2 while Anthony Richardson is out, then he's got two guys that he can bounce ideas off pretty much day and night. And between those two, they've seen just about everything.
Yeah, it's hard to really have much to say about Brett Rypien at this point. Good college quarterback. I remember a lot of people were big fans of him coming out in his draft class. He was an undrafted free agent, right, Derek? Is that what you just said there? Yeah, undrafted free agent. Much to the chagrin of those draft fans that were out there for him. But yeah, look, he's turned out a nice little career for himself, being able to jump around to rosters. And I always say with backup quarterbacks, you either want to be the guy who can win a couple games or be the best friend of the starting quarterback. And hearing that Daniel Jones personally recommended him, that's probably why he's here, and probably for no other reason other than just be a soundboard for Daniel Jones. So yeah, if he ever gets into a game, it's not a good thing for the Colts. So let's just keep Daniel Jones upright. Again, they've only had 5 sacks allowed through 6 games. Let's keep that up going forward.
Can I make a nice little stat? I'll mention his stats here. He has more than double the interceptions that he does touchdowns, and he has triple the sacks that he has touchdowns. Just if we're keeping score at home.
Oh boy.
Hey, I think Daniel Jones has probably triple the sacks that he does touchdowns as well.
Hey, he's turned over a new leaf.
Yeah. So there we go. Brett Rypien can be fixed in this system too. We fix everybody here.
Sick nickname though. Like if he got into a game and did well, could a quarterback have a better last name than Rypien? Like that's crazy.
It sounds a lot better than Tim Boyle, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it's true.
Well, like I say, the best position in football is backup quarterback. You're one play away from being the star of the show, and you don't have to play as good as the star. You just have to maintain. I guess the only better position is backup to the backup, because that way, if you see the field, then something has terribly gone wrong. But I would like to take a second and reflect on Anthony Richardson's plight, because this is a guy who was drafted very high, got paid a lot of money, and had, just a great future ahead of him. And look, I say got paid a lot of money because does the money really make a difference right now? The way he's feeling, but sometimes playing in the NFL and I guess regular life can really test your faith. High drafted, outstanding prospect gets his job taken away. Now he busts his eye open. You don't know when he's going to see the field again. And you just got to, as a player, say to yourself, the Lord will give you no more than you can handle. But damn, isn't that enough now? But I just think that this is a time for Anthony Richardson to really go inside himself and figure out what he needs to do to get back on that level. And I'm not saying that his play on the field is the reason that contributed to the band snapping, but it is one of those little detail things, a detail thing, missing a hot blitz, a detail thing, how you're supposed to stretch out the band so it doesn't slap you in the eye, so it's just one of these learning lessons for him. And then for Riley Leonard, this is a chance now where he has to become really studious. He has to be, taking a lot of mental reps just in case, he's going to have to step in. And it's a little more pressure on Daniel Jones, because don't be surprised. He may be letting the ball go a little quicker than he needs to, because he knows that this machine won't roll without him in there. So he may be, dinking and dunking a little bit more so he doesn't get hurt. But I don't think that's his mentality. But I know I've been all over the place with this answer. But yeah, if Rypien gets in, then something really, really bad has happened to the Colts.
And I want to piggyback on that real quick, Alan, because, you've been in the locker room before. None of us have. I know that I always preface everything that I ask you with that. Not that it's already obvious just from watching the show.
Jake's been in the locker room. He's just not been on the field. He's in the locker room.
Like every day.
When you talk about, the mental health aspect of it, it's not something that was talked about publicly during your day, but I'm sure you guys noticed when a teammate was struggling, right? It's not something that you went to the press with. It's not something that you spoke about maybe outside the locker room, but we knew, the locker room stuff and the camaraderie that you guys kind of keep inward and you keep those conversations in-house. His teammates have to see what's happening right now, right? And know that he needs a shoulder to lean on. So can you sort of take us through maybe what you would do in this situation? Because clearly the guy's headspace has to be really messed up with, he just keeps stepping on the rake, right? I'm not even trying to be funny, but you talk about everything going wrong, whereas everything around you for the team is going wonderfully, except for you.
You just have to continue to support him, be his friend, be his brother, love on him a little bit, and just assure him that his day will come. But the only way that day is going to come is if he puts his nose to the grindstone and continues to work and just let him know that hard work will be rewarded. And every guy in that locker room has had some sort of adversity that they've had to overcome that they can share with him to let him know that it's going to be okay. But just keep working. And sometimes when it all ends up going right, it might not be with this team. It might be someplace else. But that's okay. Right now, let's take care of today. Let's support you today and still let you know you're a badass player. But just what you have to do is get yourself ready for when it's your time. And when it's your time, you snatch the position and you play so well that they can't take you off the field.
Yeah, and I think a big thing with sports is we always romanticize the underdog stories and the successes of sports. That's the beauty of sports, right? Mm-hmm. Miracle on Ice, we romanticize how awesome it is and all these things here. But, for every romantic story about football, there's an equally heartbreaking story with it. I mean, just with the Colts in recent memory, Paris Campbell was another guy who just could not get out of his own way with the injuries. Look what's happening with A.D. Mitchell. He's another guy who I think would fall into a similar category as Anthony Richardson, where everything is going great for the team, but he just can't get out of his own way. I go back to when I was covering Washington. There was a safety, Kyshawn Jarrett, who looked like an emerging superstar at the safety position, takes one bad hit on a running back, messes up something in his neck, never plays football again. It's such a heartbreaking sport in a lot of ways for guys. And for as much as this whole situation is on Richardson, on the Colts, all this, right? It's not like it's only on the nature of the sport that is bringing him down here. The other aspect of it, though, is just the unluckiness of the injuries, of the way he fell a couple of times, the way he took certain hits, the way it held him back and it led to other things that have happened to him. And it's just part of the game, So it's such an unfortunate thing. Again, like an equipment malfunction. It's like how we said with A.D. Mitchell when he dropped the ball at the 1 yard line against the Rams. It's like the perfect amalgamation of what Richardson's career has been, where it's like just this fluky thing that happens to him and it knocks him out for a time. And it's just the most unfortunate thing. But I will say one good thing for Richardson going forward is, unlike any other time period in NFL history, we are in the age of the reclamation quarterback projects right now. Every quarterback's getting a second chance. Every quarterback's getting a third chance to really show that they can make it in this league. And with him only being 23 years old, like he's still a very, very young quarterback who is taken very high. So even if it doesn't work out here in Indy, he's going to have chances to move on. So like Alan said, the big thing for him is just get right mentally, realize that, things have gone wrong, but you have to take those right steps to right the ship. And he still has a great chance to be a good player in this league. It's just things. I mean, you can't have a career start as poorly as it has for him in just terms of play, in terms of unluckiness, in terms of some of the decisions that have been made. But it's not over for him. You get some grace when you're taken as high as he was, especially around the league. So unlike maybe some other heartbreaking stories like a Paris Campbell who didn't really get those chances anymore after Indy, Richardson's going to get those chances. So he still has plenty of time to right the ship and get to where he needs to be, even if it's not with the Colts.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing here is like this was supposed to be the time where Anthony just got to be in the background and for no freak things to happen to him at all while he's the backup quarterback, and some guys are just kind of snake bitten by the bad luck, but he will be in and out of the facility. Like he there's treatment and there's things he's got to do around the facility. He's still going to be in some meetings when he can, but at the same time, expectedly, he does have to like be out seeking treatment for his injury and everything. So he'll be around. He'll still be around the guys. Like that's a strong core of leadership and veterans in that locker room. And he's a guy who is, I think everyone understands that Daniel Jones is the right quarterback for this team right now, but he's still held in very high regard as a person in that team, in that locker room. So I do think there's plenty of guys in there who themselves have faced adversity and will help keep him up.
When we come back on the Colts Squad Show, linebackers, who needs them? We'll talk over and under reactions next when we return.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
And we're back on the Locked On Colts Squad Show. Thanks for making us a part of your Wednesday night or Thursday morning or Thursday afternoon or Friday or Saturday. I don't know. You can listen to this at any time. We would love that on the Locked On Colts YouTube channel or on any of the your favorite podcast platforms. We'd love if you liked and subscribed and left a great review as well. I'm Derek Schultz. Alan Pinkett is here. So is Zach Hicks and Zach Hicks and Jake Arthur from Locked On Colts. And guys, time for us to play under and overreactions. And I have one that I just feel like they keep telling us that maybe, or hinting at the fact that maybe it's an overreaction because we talk about this defense schematically and how linebacker doesn't really matter. But that said, Joe Bocci was just released today. I understand there's an injury situation there too, but Cam McGrone is gone, long gone. Zach, you've essentially, those guys were their second and third linebackers coming out of camp. Segu Alubi was one of the last guys to make the team, most likely, right? And he's one of the lone holdovers from there. And Zaire Franklin didn't play well at all, really, against Arizona. I just think an underreaction is just where they sit at linebacker, and the margin for error to me, and this is a lot to put on Franklin's shoulders, but he's a veteran and a team leader and a captain and all of that. I just think he has to consistently not play to the level that he did on Sunday. Like they need something out of him seemingly every single week because the cupboard is barren right now at linebacker for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm kind of mixed on this because I think we go too hard on Franklin because the PFF grades are a little too harsh on him. And I think historically their grading of linebackers is pretty rough in general. It doesn't really translate very well, in my opinion. They put way too much on linebackers' shoulders, especially in the run and the passing game. That kind of skews the grading a good bit, and they rely so much on turnovers, I think. So when you're not getting that turnover luck, they go too hard on it. All that to say, though, I do think Franklin did have a rough performance this past weekend. And like you said, Derek, it just can't be that way when you're a former Pro Bowl linebacker who's getting paid what he's getting paid, and he's a team captain, And the biggest thing with him is like, we can live with the coverage not being great with him. We're not sitting here saying that he needs to be the greatest cover linebacker in the league. We're not expecting him to be Fred Warner. But when you have that kind of deficiency or just that not high level in that area, the other areas of your game have to be at a higher level to make up for that. So he has to be counted on to be a really good run stuffer, to be a consistent tackler, to be a guy who can occasionally make the play and the splash play and get things going for the defense and be that energizer bunny on the defense in a big way. And we just didn't really see that this past weekend. We didn't see the defense really step up. Again, you look to your leader when the defense is just getting marched up and down the field to say like, hey, let's change this momentum. Let's do something here. Instead, we got a really dumb penalty from him where he hit the tight end over the middle very, very late, which extended the drive for the Cardinals, and they were able to continue that scoring route they were on in the second half. You just can't get that out of your leaders. You can't have the missed tackles that we had from him on that last drive where the Cardinals started with the ball inside their own 10 on that kickoff return, after that kickoff return, and marched all the way down the field to the red zone where the Colts got lucky with a couple of errant throws from Jacoby Brissett. But on that drive, him and Jermaine Pratt were missing a ton of tackles. So I do agree with you, Derek, in general, that like the linebacker play can't be as poor as it was against the Arizona Cardinals. I think it will be fine-ish going forward. I think there will be some ebbs and flows. I think Pratt and Franklin will be good enough for this scheme. It's just I don't think it's good enough when you have Jonathan Edwards and Mekhi Blackmon as your starting corners and Chris Lamons in the slot as well. Like you can have a weakness on your defense. You can't have weaknesses like that where of your 7 guys you're dropping into coverage, 5 of them you don't trust in coverage. You can't have that, So I think it needs to be better for sure. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be okay. It is tough though, Derek, when you see all these guys getting released where it's like these guys that you trusted enough to go into camp with are now, they're good. You're holding them accountable and releasing them when they're not up to snuff, but like maybe the process wasn't great there, especially because I don't think they're very high on Jalen Carlisle either when he comes back, but they need somebody, Jermaine Pratt's not going to solve everything. So I'll open the floor to Jake because I know this is his passion project talking about linebackers.
I was going to say, Derek, the most hilarious thing about this, you mentioned the negligence at linebacker. The reason they pretty much neglected linebacker all offseason is because, number one, it's not really a premium position in this defense, but also because they really liked what they had in Zaire Franklin and Jalen Carlisle. Carlisle, who has been out with an ankle injury for 2 months, and every time we ask, hey, is he getting close to coming back? Shane's like, I don't know. Like, there's no progress there. And it's a guy they invested so much of their energy in supporting because he's going to be this big part of the defense this year. And unfortunately, he was also going to be the only linebacker who could cover. It's not going well, predictably. I really don't know what they do from here. They don't have a guy on there unless Buddy Johnson can cover a little bit. I don't know. He's very good at special teams. He was awesome on Sunday, but they don't have anyone. Like, they've kind of painted themselves into a position where, we talked about if they're going to trade for someone or pick up someone to really beef up the defense and help you get through the season, linebacker has kind of become a spot where you might need to do that too. Even though edge rusher and cornerback are so much more important, well, you've kind of got this spot at linebacker where teams now know if you're going to go shallows across them in front of the sticks, if it's Jermaine Pratt and Zaire Franklin out there, you're probably going to get away with a bit of whatever you want. I kind of have a thought in my head, and it may be nothing at all, but Lowry, that new guy they picked up from the Ravens, if he could play dime linebacker, I don't know. He's a safety who's lined up in a ton of different areas. But, Hunter Wohler was going to be that guy, but he had the Liz Frank injury and he's out for the year. So maybe this new kid from the Ravens can do that and kind of be a breath of fresh air and not allow so much crap over the middle of the field. But I just don't. The only thing these guys can do to salvage it is just be really good against the run, fit the run, don't miss tackles, and just be where you're supposed to be. Because otherwise, it looks like they're just going to get taken for it against the pass.
Well, as a former player, it's always interesting to see where the team, decides to invest in certain resources. I think the team sees that linebacker is not as important a position to the people upstairs. And I can say that because Jermaine Pratt comes off the street. Well, he really wasn't off the street, but his first time wearing a Colts uniform, he's leading tackler. So what does that say about the guys that they had there before? Some that they are releasing or have released, that they didn't have faith in those guys either. Yeah, and that Anarumo probably really had to politic to get Jermaine Pratt, because it's apparent that Zaire Franklin needs a buddy. You need two in there. And I know you talk about injuries to, some of the other players, but it's just what it does to a defense is, okay, I got to be twice as good at my position because of this weakness we have at the linebacker position. And that's the way it is. And so that's, if I'm Kwity Paye, I got to get more pressure on the quarterback because we are kind of suspect at linebacker. If I'm playing in the defensive backfield, I might have to cover this big ass tight end. I wish the linebacker could cover him, but I got to cover this big ass tight end. But I got to make a play because the area where we choose not to put many resources in on this defense is linebacker. So that's just the way it is. That's the way it appears to me. It's just not as important as other positions on the defense.
Yeah, and I think the issue with that too, though, is it's hard for everyone to kind of have that mindset of I need to step up for linebacker when I also got to step up for corner right now because we have practice squad guys and undrafted free agents at corner. I got to step up for edge rusher because Samson Ebukam's still coming back from an Achilles injury and all these other things. So it's just kind of tough when you have all these guys having to step up for each other. Yeah. Instead of it, again, when it's not one weak point, when it's multiple weak points, it's really hard to cover. And Jacoby Brissett took advantage of that this past weekend. I did want to throw one more overreaction and one more underreaction at you guys, and I'll just say them and then throw them out to you guys. One overreaction is I think people are overreacting to how hard the schedule is down the stretch for the Colts. It is a tough schedule. Like, don't get me wrong. These are some good teams that they're going to be playing, but I think a lot of people are saying like, oh, this is where the Colts are going to prove themselves to be frauds, or the Colts are not on the same level with these teams. These teams are going to be looking at the Colts saying the Colts are a good team coming in here, or when they're going to the Colts for sure. So I think, you kind of overreact when it's like, oh, we play some tough teams. We're a tough team. The Colts are a tough team. And then for underreaction, I feel like I do this every single week, but I think people underreact to greatness when it's in front of them. And this is why I've said this about Jonathan Taylor the last couple of weeks, where we're underreacting to how great Jonathan Taylor has played. Well, Quentin Nelson as well. We are underreacting to how good he is playing right now. His last 2 weeks in particular are some of the most special run blocking film I've seen from a guard in my time covering the Colts and covering this Hall of Fame career, my entire time covering the Colts. I've covered this guy from draft day to where he is now, and I'm going to be covering him until he's inducted in the Hall of Fame. And he's just that special of a player. But what we're seeing from him this year, the last 2 weeks, the Colts have designed multiple run plays where it's just run behind Quentin Nelson. Pull Quentin Nelson out in front. We're going to run behind him. Who's going to stop us? And then to go get the game-winning touchdown on Sunday. I know he wasn't needed because Michael Pittman Jr. had a great block, but what do we do on the goal line when we need a game-winning touchdown? We pull Quentin Nelson out in front. We're going to run behind him. When we have to ice a game, what are we doing? We're moving Quentin Nelson in front. So Quentin Nelson's become their guy in the run game. He gets all the responsibility in the pass game. I think we're underreacting still to how great this player is. This is a Ring of Honor guy, one of the best players in Colts history. He's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. I just love to acknowledge greatness, and he's been great every single week.
Yeah, if we go rapid fire, I can just go in 1 minute. First on cue, I think we naturally have underreacted to him his entire career because he's one of the few players, maybe the only player in Colts history that you could fit him for the gold jacket on draft night. Like, it was just a given. This is what he was going to be, and this is what he is, and this is what he always, at least through the prime of his career, is going to be. So I don't even mean that as to be like insulting to Quentin Nelson. Like, I just think that's the expectation because the dude's that good. As far as the schedule, I think where it's tricky, Zach, is Seattle is one of the toughest places to play.
Oh, yeah.
And Arrowhead is a really tough place to play. Like
Yep.
Nashville is not a tough place to play, right? Jacksonville for most teams is not a tough place to play.
Very tough here.
So I think that's what gives me pause, and the fact that God, they've got to make 3 West Coast trips. Like they're going to LA again, and then they got to go to Seattle. I don't think the schedule makers. Yeah, and Germany. I don't think the schedule makers did them favors as far as that's concerned. But you're right. Like the actual opponents, the Niners are fine, right? Like. Yeah, they'll be tested, but I don't see anybody where I'm like, whoa, like a 4 or 5 game stretch where the Colts are going to go like 1-3 or something like that. That's just my reaction. But Jake, you take it away.
Well, yeah, the Colts are already halfway to the win total they kind of need in order to get to the playoffs. And like we mentioned earlier, there's some critical games coming up that could almost put the icing on the cake for them. Like you got the Chargers and the Steelers and the Chiefs coming up. The Jaguars are obviously going to be competing. Maybe the Texans pull themselves out of this rut. The Colts stack wins against these teams, and they're going to have tiebreakers on tiebreakers. The Bills lost to the Falcons. If the Colts go into Germany and beat the Falcons, there's another tiebreaker they'll have in their cap. The Colts every week have an opportunity to kind of build and add onto this resume. And I think Zach's right. We've seen enough from this team to know that like the things they're good at carry over to be actually good traits. And Derek, you could speak for this too. We have seen even the most cynical Colts fans buy into this team.
Yeah.
And buy into Daniel Jones and buy into Shane Steichen. And even the fans who are always the most doom and gloom, I think all buy into this team a bit.
Yeah. My college roommate, he's texting me all the time. He's the most cynical Colts fan on planet Earth, factual. And he's buying into this team right now at 5-1, Alan.
I'm a cynical Colts fan as well. And I'm buying into this team.
Well, it sounds cliche-ish, but you just control the controllables. And what the Colts can do now is control how they play. As far as how the schedule ratchets up later in the season, they'll deal with that when they get there. They got to take care of right now. But this upcoming game, I tell you one thing, when you're on a team that wins and you play against another team that has had success, it's one of those, you want to send a message to that team because you might see them again in the playoffs and you want them to remember that ass whooping you put on them. So this is one of those measuring stick games for the Colts, for them to really go out to their house and put it on them so that if they play them again in the playoffs, LA will think, ooh, yeah, that Colts team we played, they're kind of serious. You want to create just a teeny bit of doubt in them. That's why this game is so important. You want to go smack them now so that when you play them again, you have just that little mental edge over them.
Yeah, measuring stick is right. Sunday will be a big test to see where the Colts stack up in the AFC against an opponent in the Chargers that has historically owned them this century. We'll take our first look at LA when we return for a final time next, right here on the Colts Squad Show. This portion of the Colts Squad Show brought to you by Gametime. NFL season is back, and honestly, there's nothing better than being in the stadium surrounded by fans, cheering on your team as well. But let's be honest, getting tickets can be a little bit of a hassle between queues and login screens and prices jumping at checkout. It's a frustrating process, to say the least. That's why I like to use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. Gametime's fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. You'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price you pay. One of my favorite aspects and quirks about the Gametime app is the zone deals. You guys have to check this out. All you got to do with zone deals is you pick the section you want to sit in, right? Gametime then picks the seats that are the best deal, and then you say big. That's all you have to do. Zone deal. Easy peasy. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket. Go. Download the Gametime app today. Back for a final time here on the Locked On Colts Squad Show. Thanks so much for joining us. Colts and Chargers coming up here on Sunday, their first meeting since 2022, which if you guys go back to the very, very dark place that was the 2022 season, that was when things were deteriorating rapidly.
That was a bad game.
Yeah, it was a primetime game, and it was one-sided, and it was pretty rough. But the Chargers really have had the Colts number. This century, out of any AFC opponent, it's the team that the Colts have defeated the least. Even fewer wins than the Steelers. Now, they've played the Steelers more. They're 4-10 against the Steelers this century. They're just 3-8 against the Chargers. And when you look at those 8, and I don't want to dig all these bones up, Jake. I mean, you remember this. This is kind of before Zach was on the Colts beat. They were the bugaboo just as much as New England was. I mean, you talk about the Mike Seyfrieds and Darren Sproles game, Phillip Rivers before
Billy freaking Volek.
Yes. People always talk about the Steelers game. To me, the biggest choke in Colts history was the 2007 divisional game against San Diego, where they had Tomlinson was out, Rivers left with an injury. They didn't have Antonio Gates that game, and Billy Volek drove them down the field, and the Colts were a 10.5-point favorite. And were running on fumes when they lost Dwight Freeney. But again, just kind of the history lesson. In the now, Colts are 5-1, Chargers are 4-2, both good teams. But as good as the Colts had been, Zach, 4 of their first 6 have come at home, and one of the roadies was in Nashville, which is the worst road atmosphere in the entire league. Sorry to beat on the Titans. I feel like I've been jabbing at him this entire podcast, but it really
my
is
old
true.
Team.
Yeah, there you go. I'm sorry, Alan. Apologies there. Kind of like the Rams game, though. We saw the Colts hold their own. Are you interested to see how they do with this second test here against a Chargers team that I think we'd agree is certainly a playoff caliber team? I don't know how good they are, but a postseason caliber team at the very least.
Yeah, for sure. I feel very comfortable and confident with this Colts team at home, especially their offense at home, because, again, you control so much in your home environment. You have that extra motivation factor to defend your home turf. And I think a lot of the way their offense works much better on their home field. But they still haven't really answered much on the road. Like, I think they exchanged some good punches with the Rams, but they kind of shot themselves in the foot like road teams do in those big environments. And then the Tennessee road game, like you mentioned, Derek, they've already fired their head coach. It's hard to really compare when you're talking about one of the worst teams in football. So this will be a big measuring stick game for the Colts, just in terms of, can they win away from home? Because, like, look, you can make the playoffs winning all your home games and winning a couple road games, but how far are you going to go in the playoffs? Unless you get that 1 seed, how far are you going in the playoffs if you can't win on the road and win in those hostile environments? So this will be a big one for the Colts, going out to the West Coast against a good Chargers team that's really banged up. They are missing every offensive tackle that knows how to play football on their roster. They're missing a couple key defensive players. We don't know if Khalil Mack will be back for this game. He's still practicing in a limited participation. And usually when guys are coming off IR and they have that first limited practice week, we don't see them get activated, but we'll see how he progresses this week. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good test for the Colts, because this Chargers team is very different from the Colts, where they are winning games behind their superstar quarterback who's doing a lot of great things for them. A defense that's really competitive and physical, a run game that's architected by Greg Roman and Jim Harbaugh. They know what they're doing there to develop run games and develop ways to run from under center. I think a big thing for the Colts will be offense. Just keep doing what you're doing, move the ball forward, get points on the board. In defense, it'll be about those splash plays. I don't need you to hold Justin Herbert to -10 net yards. I know I keep bringing that up. I'm just still astounded by that game. But it doesn't have to be this suffocating defensive performance. It's all about taking the ball away, because that's really where the big difference is between these two teams, especially in recent weeks. The Chargers have turned the ball over a lot on offense. In their losses, it's been a lot of self-inflicted wounds. We saw in their loss against Washington, multiple big-time turnovers and just mistakes that they made. They lost to the Giants this year, which is crazy. Again, that Colts fans are saying, like, oh, this Chargers team is going to be impossible to beat. The Colts are going to lose by more than one score. It's like, they lost to the Giants. I mean, look, the Chargers are a good team, but, like, it's not like they're this insurmountable team. They get into these ruts where they shoot themselves in the foot a lot, where the Colts this year, outside of that Rams game, which, again, was a road game and a tough road game, the Colts have been really good at avoiding the self-inflicted wounds. So I think the big thing for the Colts here, again, on offense, control the ball, move the ball forward, get points on the board. Defense, create those splash plays. The Chargers will go under center a couple times, bring those Nick Cross backside blitzes when they go under center. really pressure the run, really get after Justin Herbert out of play action, and don't give him a chance to attack your corners on the outside, which will be a weak spot for the Colts. So I think this is going to be a good test for them. I think it'll be a hard-fought game and a one-score game for sure. But I like the Colts' chances because I like what they've been doing lately, and I'm good with them like answering the call this week. I think they can do it.
Yeah, you look at the one loss they've had. It was the only game that they've really turned the ball over. I think they have 3 turnovers in that one. It was the game where they had allowed the most pressure, and that was the game they had to play without Matt Gonzalez. So that will kind of solve itself this week, regardless. But yeah, just not being careless with the ball and just playing your game. I mean, the defense there in Los Angeles is really, really good. But at the same time, again, I think, Alan, would you say 14 people on the injury report today?
Ooh.
So it's hard to even make judgments about this yet because you just don't even know who's going to be playing. Like, even some of the guys who will be playing are going to be pretty dang banged up. They're down to their 3rd and 4th running backs. Like, Kamani Vidal is fine, but they don't have Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris. McConkey's banged up a little bit. Keenan Allen is there. Quentin Johnston, I think, is banged up a little bit too. We'll see. The Chargers are one of those teams that are capable of beating the Super Bowl champ any week and losing to a lottery team any week.
Right.
You have no clue what Chargers team you're getting week to week. And the Colts just kind of have to hope that they can force them into some mistakes, like Zach was talking about, like errant Justin Herbert passes over the middle, some fumbles. The Colts haven't really capitalized on forcing many fumbles this year, I don't really think, but this could finally be the week for it because they've been taking the ball away each week, but it's mostly been picks. This might be the week where they can maybe cause some issues with ball security, but I do think that'll be the difference. And it was really the difference in the Rams game too.
Well, the most important person in the Chargers organization will not run a single play this week. It's Jim Harbaugh. He just has a Midas touch wherever he's coached, wherever he's played. Heck, I remember a championship game he lost when he was quarterback for the Colts against the Steelers. And I mean, that came down.
Oh, what are we doing?
That very last play. Well, look, just to show you how old I am, he was a senior at Michigan when I was a senior at Notre Dame. And we went to play Michigan, and he took a boring 3-yard and cloud of dust team and sent them to a winning record. In fact, they, I don't know how many games they won that year, but they were nationally, they were a top 5 team. So it's just his touch, the way he gets his players to believe in themselves, the way he runs an organization. And a lot of times you have success in college. Hell, he did good at University of San Diego. Didn't even know they had a football team. And then he gets to Stanford and he makes them a powerhouse. And a lot of times it doesn't translate when you go from college to pro. But then he gets to San Francisco, takes them to the Super Bowl, and then, just for kicks, let me go back to my alma mater and win a national championship. He's just got this touch. He's got this organization. He's got just that special juice that brings the best out of the players on his team. So because of that, I don't worry about how many guys are on the injured list. He's going to come up with something that is going to make the Chargers hard to beat. I almost said San Diego. Yeah, but that's showing my age. And so to me, he's the most important person. So you are going to have to beat the players, when you go out there. But it makes it harder because he's the one, Jim Harbaugh is the one in charge, and it makes them sometimes unbeatable. But I think this Colts team, because of the systematic way they break a team down, that I don't care who's coaching them. When the Colts are hot, you can't stop them. And so I look for the Colts to relish this second opportunity to go out to LA. Now there's some familiarity. It's like, okay, we're going to probably stay in the same hotel. I'm not impressed with the hotel. Second time in the stadium, Okay, now it's real familiar. I know where to go, what to do in pregame. And it's you got that familiarity. So now you can hone in on what your job is, and that's to go out there and win. So second time usually is a charm when you have to go back to the same stadium for a second time. So, but the way the Colts are built, they're built to be able to play in a game like this against a team where there might be insurmountable or unsurmountable odds with a Jim Harbaugh. But I think the Colts can, because of the way they're playing right now, and they've got that belief themselves, they can pull one out.
Yeah,
I will say sorry, Zach, real quick, just another thing about a Jim Harbaugh team. One of the toughest things about this matchup for the Colts is, regardless of how banged up the Chargers are, they do all the little things in terms of effort and all the dirty work that the Colts do. They are tough. They 100% motor, 100% effort at all times. You go and look at their peripheral players blocking for each other on each and every play, and it's really impressive stuff. It's all the stuff that we have lauded the Colts for, and I can't imagine either team blowing the other one out in this one, because it's such a physical, high effort matchup on both sides. It's going to be a good game. It could even be ugly, but it's going to be a good game.
He gets the team. Harbaugh gets the team to play to his personality, and I think that's what makes him a great coach.
Yeah. Last thing I'll say, though, and this is something I would say for any single week with the Colts, but I think if we get to the situation where the Colts need to be leading or tied in the second half, because if we look at this Chargers team, they're pretty good against the pass. They've struggled against the run, especially lately with Khalil Mack out. And if you get that Jonathan Taylor treatment in the second half, I don't care who you are. You could be the best run defense or the worst run defense. You're going to break down. So if the Colts can have a lead in the second half, they can keep it close in the second half, and then they lean on Jonathan Taylor. Chargers better watch out there for that situation.
Thanks for joining us here on the Colts Squad Show. Hell, this was a show that we brought up the Aaron Bailey game and the Billy Volek game, and people are still here. So that's obviously a good thing. Lock us in for our midweek show every Wednesday night at 9 p.m. But don't forget, we are your place for live post-game recaps following each and every Colts game this season. So we'll be back with you on Sunday to recap the game in LA shortly after Colts and Bolts goes final right here on the Locked On Colts Network. Until then, keep it locked on Jake and Zach every day on Locked On Colts. Check out our other awesome team and squad shows for more NFL insights, including Locked On Chargers right here on the Locked On platform. But be sure to follow at Locked On Colts on socials. Check out our other great Locked On Colts content on YouTube and TikTok. And we will see you next time right here on the Squad Show.